Thank you for this opportunity, Chris, CODESYS, and I appreciate the colleagues who are all around spending time on this. I'm going to share what we talked about at another platform like CODESYS, which is the integrators now on this Tech Talk. We made this presentation or a panel discussion at the Control System Integrator Association Executive Conference in 2022. It may be a bit dated, June 27, 30, but the information there is very much relevant if you were not there. This is, you are all integrators, so you would definitely know the Control System Integrator Association there. This was a cooperation, non-competitive cooperation between CODESYS for sure, Phoenix Contact, ourselves, and then there was a control system integrators, another integrator, John Vicente, whom we all contributed for the panel discussion on open process automation and the fallout, the commercial solution, the coalition for open process automation. Bear with me as I go through these slides. So what is the scope of the open process automation? We are not going to be talking about uh, safety systems or fire and gas systems. We are just talking about the standard control system, the DCS PLC IOs, and then together with the DCS, the HMIs which are there, either in the shop floor or in the control room. And then you have the higher level, as per the Purdue model, the advanced controls, the optimization software. So this is the whole scope where we will be open process automation is involved. And I have the links here. This slide will be available to you later, so you can go ahead and then check out these various standards and the links available. So the objective is the Open Process Automation Forum is basically an international forum. It is comprises of end users, system integrators, suppliers, academia, some universities who are contributing, and other standards organization. We are all working together to develop a standards-based, open, secure, and interoperable process control architecture. And very soon you will see what Andre talked about is getting aligned with what is the vision with Open Process Automation Forum. This is the structure. We are going to have distributed control nodes with IOs if were required, or only as a control node, which is a compute platform. And then you could have gateways, which the traditional hardware or the legacy hardwares which are there, which could then communicate over OCI, which is the communication interface, and communicate to OPAS connectivity framework. The OPAS connectivity framework is based on OPC UA. The OPC UA with the information model specific for OPAS, so that everybody talks the same language and every hardware is then transparent to the communication to the control system. It is not focused on the hardware, but more focused on the software and the interfaces over there. So this is the typical architecture, what you see. And this is the ecosystem that OPAS or OPAF is evolving. You have the end user over here. You have the system integrator, that's you. There are service provider roles, which could be again yourself providing the life cycle part of it. And then there could be a solution provider. This could be on machines, kits, as an OEM vendor. And then, of course, we are the hardware software suppliers who are then providing the hardware or the software applications for putting together a solution, which the integrator does it or a solution provider does it, or even maybe a service provider has to do it when he's maintaining the during the life cycle of the equipment. Now, none of these roles are exclusive, can be done separately or can also be done by one party. So it is all open to how the end user wants his system to be open, or how many how many capabilities does the integrator have, and how much can he offer to the customer as as a single point of support. So that's the element on the ecosystem. And these are the various standards. A standard of standards, as I mentioned earlier, we released already the version 1 in 2019, which was based on interoperability. In 2020, we did configuration portabilities. All the systems that are configured, those configurations can be ported from one hardware to another. And then version 2.1, which has been just released 2021, 2022, we are talking about control functionalities. And that is where we are talking about the algorithms that we'll be using. And you can see this in this table over here. In 2023, until I'm not able to give you a date, this is a work in progress. We'll be looking at application portability, orchestration, and physical platforms, the hardware standardization which would come in place. So what are we working on? What are the areas we are working on? These are the standards individual part numbers. You have the technical architecture similar to the ISA 95, which is what it will be based on, but we are building this as an open architecture, what you saw in the yellow and the blue and the golden diagram before. Definitely, we are worried about security. And again, this is going to be based on the 62443 standard for ensuring that your new OPAF system has security built in and not an add-on. There will be profiles. There is no standard available. These are the profiles which will require how the hardwares will be tested and be available for customers to pick and choose, so they're able to have an open platform. Connectivity network, I mentioned earlier, the 62541, the OPC UA is what is going to be the standard, the open communication framework. There is going to be system management definitions which will be laid out based on DMTF using Redfish. And then I mentioned earlier the OPC UA and the other information models which will run, which will be more specific to OPAS. You will have the 62541 again, OPAS, OPC UA with an OPAS information model, the 62714, the automation ML, the 62682, the 18.2, and then of course the 61131.3, where CODESYS plays a strong role, which will have a runtime which will have the OPAS information model, and then of course the 1499. The physical platform, this is a hardware which is hardware design, which is something which is in progress and it's to be decided and finalized, as there is nothing available off the shelf. What do we do next? Oh, why is my, sorry, I don't know why my screen jumped. So I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of people already members. You can see so many of the end users, the Eastman, the Koch, the ExxonMobil, the Dow, Georgia Pacific. And then, of course, there are the vendors, the Phoenix Contact, the Yokogawas, the Schneiders, and of course, we as STHAL are also part of it. I'm not naming any of them specifically, but you can see there's a big list. If you go on the website, on the first page link which I shared, you'll be able to find everybody out over there. All the major players of the vendors are also there, the softwares are there, and then there are integrators as well as uh, engineering companies like Wood and Jacob also part of it. So currently we are on version 2.1. This is the status as on July, and it remains the same even today. That is the released version. The version 2.2 or 3 is still a work in progress. There are test beds already available. So you have ExxonMobil having a test bed and their collaboration partners. So Georgia Pacific, Aramco, Petronas, Shell, and then later on I'll show you there are other people who have also signed up. We have interoperability workshops done. So a lot of standards, which once they are defined, they are being tested by vendors if they all work together. And then, of course, the standards are also focusing, as I had mentioned earlier, compliance program on certification, and then, of course, field trials. There are field trials planned by Exxon where they are going to roll out somewhere around 2000 IO field trial out of Louisiana in an existing chemical plant, which is a rip and replace or a migration project. What is COPA? We all heard about the standards, but of course, somebody has to provide the solutions for integrators or even for end users who want to have and build their test beds. So this coalition of vendors, as you can see over here, all most of the major vendors have come together to offer a quick start kit, which is nothing but following the OPAS standard, and it's comprising of these multiple vendors who can then put together a solution for you. And as an end user, you get your hands dirty, if I can call it that way, and understand the systems and the configurations, how they work together. And of course, as an integrator, you also get a chance to lay your hands on it. Copa is right now just putting up the demonstration kits. Sooner we will also have the training modules being lined up. So this could be interesting for CODESYS integrators to also go out and check and train themselves on Copa or on open process automation. This is what the quick start is going to be, a very small framework of OPAS connectivity with IO modules and some DCNs from third parties. So the DCNs are only the compute modules and the IOs are just the remote IOs or dummy IOs, but they are then communicating over OPAS, over OPC UA with OPAS information model and talking to the DCS. And then, of course, you have the on-premise virtual machines taking care of orchestration, historian, applications, and then, of course, engineering workstations and HMI. There is also a plan to connect to a DCS legacy system and the DCN also for that, a gateway. And of course, later on, there will be an add-on to the cloud and you can say a different offsite data center facility. This is something which is already, at least this part is already ready to be demonstrated and tested with the quick start. So in summary, the product is available now. In fact, Equinor announced the Copa as their basis for their testbed, and we have already delivered that. And Wood is setting up a competence center here in Houston, which will be based on Copa. And some few words on STHAL. We are part of Copa. We are part of OPAF. This is our complete library of products. So definitely intrinsic safety. We are always focused on hazardous area. IOs with barriers and without barriers for Div 1, Zone 1, Div 2, Zone 2. Foundation field bus, of course, and PA, some wireless and network switches, HMIs for zone 1, day 1, in case you're working from Canada or you are exporting to Europe and Asia. And then some system solutions and cameras. We have been always based on the open protocols all the time, and we continue with the same effort with OPAF. So this is what is the hardware which is going into the test beds that Stahl has provided. a DIN rail based multi-protocol communication interface with a power supply. Barriers are built into the IO modules, or if you have non-IS IOs or non-IS field devices, we have a non-IS IO also. This is a redundant version available based on the protocols, based on the software elements. We can provide you a redundant hardware structure also. And then, of course, redundant IOs right now for the non-IS versions. Our intrinsic safety is a bit complicated when you talk about redundant IO, but it is a work in progress at this moment. So that's the solutions that we have ready for you to use in the hazardous areas. And they are ready with CODESYS runtime. Of course, Ethernet APL, NAMUR, open type architecture, and MTP are the other standards which are in play and which our process automation industry is getting ready with. We have Ethernet APL switches coming soon, and don't ask me when. With all the supply chain issues, we could even be providing you an I/O interface, the Ethernet interface with Ethernet APL physical layer. Then, of course, modular type package and now more open architecture with OPC UA. As I said earlier, we have been part of the open process automation. We were part of proof of concept in 2017. We are participating in all of the test beds, and we are also participating in Copa's quick start kit. So we can use the IOs, the IS1 plus as a DCN, which is control plus the embedded IO, which would be an example when you have a CODESYS runtime in it, or we are talking about only as an embedded IO, where we only have the IO services and we are talking to the real-time bus or the OCF over OPC UA. So that's a typical architecture with the STHAL IOs over there. And last but not the least, how do we work with the CODESYS system? As I mentioned earlier, these two options to work with. We have a Linux-based ARM CPU. Team Canada, we can go up to minus 40 degrees C or minus 40 degrees F, and then right up to Arizona or Texas up to 165 degrees F. So a great wide range temperature. Software configurable analog digital temperature modules, and again, as I said, IS and non-IS modules. That's the hardware which can be connected to the environment, to the IDE, the application development environment from CODESYS. We can have the runtime embedded. We can connect over the OCF to the DCN compute, to a target Visio HMI, or even to an asset manager over an OPC UA, which is remotely monitoring in a cloud or even on-site, off-site the hardware. Currently, we have this for Div 2 or Zone 2, and then we have it also for Class 1, Div 1 areas field devices, but we do have a Zone 1 solution by early next year. The Div 1 solution is awaited with the OPAF integrated runtimes. At this moment, we will only be able to offer the Div 2 areas. So if you are in, this was more relevant to the plants as an application. So as Alex was mentioning, or Andre was mentioning earlier, when you have a plant-wide system, you could have all the process libraries embedded either in the compute or in a runtime together with the hardware here, and you are able to do the control plant-wise. Or you could be doing it with a skid with our HMI, which is with a web Visio or with a target Visio or an asset manager. This could be sitting on your machine, on your scale for deploying CODESYS in hazardous areas, in classified areas. So that's the unique proposition STAHL can bring to you together with partner CODESYS. I just bring across these screenshots again of all the slides. If there are questions, this is just again, if you want to enter into the Q&A segment, the OPAS standards and the various options or standard definitions will be laid out, the architecture, the OPAS ecosystem, and then of course the quick start, the demo unit, the quick start unit, which you see over here. I rest my case and I hope you have a lot of questions.